Video game box art is pretty important. It's the main thing that advertises the game and gives a player a first impression of what the game's vibe is going to be and maybe some of the mechanics and a few of the characters featured in the game. And of course, this applies to Sonic as well. Sonic has plenty of great box arts and plenty of not so great box arts. And today I thought it would be fun to go and remake a few of them. Now these box arts aren't necessarily the worst Sonic box art. Some look graphically worse than these, but I'm mainly going for, I feel like there's a major issue with them I want to amend in my version of it. My version probably isn't going to be the best thing ever, but it's more about the concept. And I just thought this would be a fun project. So without any further ado, let's start with Sonic 3D Blast. Now, this game has two covers. It has the Genesis and the Saturn version. Now, the Saturn version looks much better, but they both have this common issue of it being a half 3D render, half weird painted on lighting. It's very weird, and there's just not really a scene set up here. It's just, they don't look very good, especially the Genesis one. And honestly, with this one, both of these get the vibe of the game down. It's more that they just graphically look kind of terrible. This is by far going to be the worst looking cover in this video because this is just, this cover looks terrible, let's just admit it. And so I started by wanting to recreate and really hone in that 90s 3D look. So I found a model and started getting to posing. I wanted something a little bit more exaggerated, something more interesting that doesn't feel as stiff and tacked on as these models do, and that actually have modeled quills, oh my gosh. And after some fiddling around, I managed to get Sonic in a good looking state. So then I went for the background and made sure I got that simple, overly smoothed style, threw in some flickies, and gave Sonic a ring in post just to give it that extra bit of 90s nostalgia feel. And here we go, here we have it. I am really proud of how I nailed that like 90s style. That was definitely what I was going for here. And I mainly just wanted those two things, to have A, Sonic be in a good looking pose and just look good, and for it to have that 90s feel, for it to feel authentic. And I think I nailed those two pretty well. So I am definitely really happy with this one. So next up, let's move to Sonic Lost World. Now this cover doesn't look bad, it's just got really weird composition. So Sonic doesn't look bad, the background doesn't look bad, and the Deadly Six don't look bad. Nothing looks bad on its own, but there's no scenery here. Sonic is just slapped onto a background with a little glow put around him. It just looks really lazy. It's obviously just a bunch of PNGs. There is no coherency to this. This isn't like a render I'm looking at. It's just a hodgepodge of PNGs, and it just doesn't look that appealing. And so in my remake, I wanted to focus on keeping the colorful vibe of Lost World, but making Sonic feel integrated into a scene and making Sonic feel, you know, bigger on the cover. And I wanted to integrate the parkour a little more. Sure, Sonic's hitting a little bit of a more dynamic pose here that's not just like running, but I didn't feel like it was really, I feel like I could have emphasized the wall running a little more. That was something I wanted to go for. So I hopped into Blender, got this, you know, awesome modern Sonic model, shout out to Katso, this model's awesome, and got to posing. So adding a background, doing a ton of stuff in post because I was not rendering all that grass in Blender, and so here we have it. I'm really happy with this. It looks really colorful. I'm really happy with how Sonic looks. He feels exaggerated enough for it to feel kind of in the cartoony realm of this game, but I also feel like he felt grounded enough in the scene that it didn't feel like PNGs anymore. That was my main thing, but I do regret I wasn't really able to fit the Deadly Six into there, but how are you supposed to fit 6 characters into a cover and it not feel crowded? I gotta be honest. So I wish I could have put them in there, but really in retrospect, I don't know how I could have put them in there. There's so many of them. Next up, let's rewind a little bit and go to Sonic CD. Now, Sonic CD is obviously going to need a 2D drawing for its cover, not something 3D, and that's just not in my realm. So for this, I wanted to bring on a good friend of mine, Shall10, to cover this. So take it away.
Hello, I made this one. So if you guys couldn't tell, I really like Sonic CD, but something that I kind of don't like is the box art for both the English and the Japanese. I think the English one kind of looks a little goofy and doesn't really do a good job of telling you about the game, about, it's about time travel, right? And same thing with the Japanese cover art. It's just Sonic and Metal Sonic fighting. It doesn't really tell you about, time travel. It doesn't tell you about, the time stones even. At least the American box art had the time stone. I feel like when it comes to both of these, they don't really do a good job at telling you what the game is about, besides the fact that you're going to be fighting this metal version of Sonic, when in reality, that's only like in 2 levels of the whole game. But there is this one box art that is basically everything you need to know about the game. It has Sonic, Metal Sonic, Dr. Eggman holding the time stone, and Amy. And I think this does a really, really good job at telling you the story of the game compared to the actual box arts of the game. So the art style I'm going for the whole art would be the style of this type of box art or cover. But something I still wanted to incorporate was the kind of detailed background and storytelling of the American box art. Despite my issues with it, I still think the background and the actual way it tells its story is kind of interesting, with Sonic holding the time stone and stomping on the little alien thing from the special stage. So I kind of wanted to do that with my cover art, but also, keeping the art style of this cover art. So first thing I did was, get the characters done, because those are probably the most important parts of this whole box art. Drawing in this art style is difficult, man, because it's all like smooth shaded and it feels very like materially, like kind of like a 3D like blend. If you're going into Blender and you put like the material on a sphere, that's kind of how it looks like. So getting that style down was kind of challenging because it's on every part of the body. With Sonic, it's not as bad because it's not as intense, but with Metal, first of all, I've never drawn Metal Sonic before, and second of all, it's way more metallic, so the effect is going to be way more exaggerated because obviously he's metal, he reflects light way easier. Something that I didn't really take into account before starting would be the bounce light on Metal Sonic. That was probably the hardest thing to make and was my biggest challenge because I'm not really used to drawing bounce light like in that type of way. I've done it before, obviously, but with like Metal Sonic and his color palette, it was kind of a challenge. But I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't enjoy it. I think this new challenge of drawing was a very fun experience, and in the end, besides a few like rough edges here and there, I'm still very, very happy with how these 2 characters came out. And honestly, I think I want to draw classic Sonic like this from now on. Now, next up, the second most important part was the background. I wanted this place to feel recognizable, but also different from the original game, and the place I chose was Stardust Speedway. Now, the way I had this is I kind of took inspiration from the outro AMV where Metal Sonic and Sonic are racing on Stardust Speedway's road. So I took that and I drew it in this little art piece here. And I also had, like, if you look behind Metal Sonic, I had the yellow pipe. It was kind of hard to add these because no matter where I put it, it would be blocked by either Sonic or Metal, so that was like the only place I could really find the place to put it. And behind them, I put the big buildings that you would see in the outro. If you look in the outro, I tried my best to replicate how they look in there as well. And finally, the last thing I needed to add was the time stone. Now, originally, I was gonna have Sonic hold it in his hand, but I didn't think that would be interesting. So what I had it do was it being like flying in front of both of them, and Sonic and Metal Sonic are kind of like racing to get it. And I feel like that is more representative of what they actually do in the game. They never actually like throw hands or anything. They kind of just race. And I think that is way more representative of what they do in the game. And I think it fits really well here. And here is the final result. Originally, I was gonna have Amy and Dr. Eggman in the sky kind of like faded out, but I feel like they would take too much space up and it would kind of like make the whole piece kind of cluttered, so I omitted them from the entire piece. But I still really like how I did this and how it came out, and I hope you guys like it too, because I put a lot of time into this one. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I don't know why you're still here. Go back to G-Dub's video. This is his video, man. I don't know why you're still here, man. Get out of here.
And for our final box art, we have Sonic Forces. Now, Forces doesn't necessarily have a bad cover. It's not that it looks bad or feels like there's not really a scenery there. I feel like there's almost too much scenery because there are so many characters. Sure, I get the idea of Sonic forces, right? Like, oh, it looks like army or whatever, but it doesn't feel like that. I don't feel like there's an army here. It just feels like too many characters plastered on one screen. Plus, there's this really weird blue lens flare in the background that I don't know why that's there, so I decided to axe that. So in my remake, I wanted to fix a few things. I wanted to make it not be so crowded. Wanted to make there be less characters on screen. B, I wanted there to be, I don't really like this front on angle. Like, just tilting Sonic to the side makes so much, dude, it like the toothpick changes everything, as they say. And then I also wanted to emphasize Infinite. I feel like he's kind of pushed to the side here because they kind of tried to clickbait everybody. They just threw a bunch of characters on there. It's very desperate feeling, probably because it is, but you know. So with all that said, here is my remake. I wanted to focus on the main trio of characters here. We have obviously the Avatar, Sonic, and Classic Sonic. But I made sure to leave the entire top half of the image completely open so that Infinite could be overlooking the entire scene. I wanted this cover to do a better job of making Infinite not feel like just one of the villains in this game and make him feel like the villain. The only real threat here is Infinite, and I wanted to make it feel that way. And so yeah, I am very happy with this one. There's only a few things. I guess if I had to give a little feedback to my echo chamber self, I wish I could have put a little bit more fire and destruction into the scene, and I do think that Classic Sonic's pose could have been refined a little more, but honestly, I was a little too deep in that it would have taken so long to edit that I ended up deciding not to. But I am still really happy with this, and I think conceptually it looks way better than the final cover. And so yeah, that's about it for this video. I just wanted to, you know, I'm like a big graphic design guy. I dabble in 3D, and I just thought this would be a fun project that I think I just had the skills to be able to do. Huge thank you to Shal10 for hopping on this video. He did a fantastic job with the CD cover. Seriously, this looks really good. So yeah, shout out to him. So yeah, saying all that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that all of you have an amazing rest of your day. God bless.